Once again, Billy will quit throwing her water bottle around. What are we going to do? All right. Well, happy Mother's Day to all of you that are mothers and to all of you born of a mother. That's all of y'all. Just kind of help y'all out with that. That's everybody. We are over in Hebrews chapter 12. We're gonna really I'm gonna really try to get all the way to verse 6. And then I will mention 7 and 8 for next week as a preparatory. Is that cool? But there is so much in just the first 6 verses. Now, how many of you guys and gals have big plans today for Mother's Day? Yeah. Okay. So nobody. Notice we're missing a bunch because they are doing something. But here's something I heard this morning. If you got your mother still around, give her a hug. Because the unfortunate fact is we won't always, right? They're going to leave. And so they're going to go home. And so if you do have them, give them a big hug. And if you have to call them to give them that hug because they live in multiple states, like, mine's in a different state, give them a call. Let them know you love them and care about them. Don't let them know that Mother's Day snuck up on you and you forgot. Don't let them know that. How many of you did that? You're not admitting it. You're not admitting it. All right. But so happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. But let's go to Hebrews chapter 12 and let's really focus in on what we just went through in Hebrews chapter 11. They call the hall of faith, right? So based on that, and I actually read it last week, because of that, going all the way back to verse 1 and 2 of chapter 11, and you're like, you've already done that. Stop. No, let's go back to 1 and 2 of 11, because that's the springboard for 12. So 1 and 2 of 11 explains to us that because we have faith, all right, and faith is not a feeling, it's a substance, remember? So if we go back and we look at 11, it says, now faith is the substance of the things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Catch verse 2. Verse 2 leads us into chapter 12. Look what it says. For the elders, all of those that have been listed in the Hall of Faith, and even the writer himself said that I couldn't even write everything I wanted to write, but he says, for by it the elders obtained a good testimony. So now when we jump to chapter 12, verse 1, it makes a little bit of sense that we understand that this is a continuation. This is a continuing story. We're not breaking away. We're not jumping into something new. This is continuing off of chapter 11, okay? And it's continuing off of verse 2. So as verse 2 says that the elders had a good testimony because of their faith, when we jump into chapter 12 and we read verse 1 of 12, we start to put it together. Because in chapter 12, verse 1, it says, therefore we also, since we are surrounded by so great of a cloud of witness. Okay, So let's stop there just for a second. So he's referring back to everything that was said in chapter 11, the cloud of witnesses. He says, since we are surrounded by such a cloud of witnesses, we can understand faith better. Okay, so we have to back up to look forward, right? How many of you at your age, looking across the room, how many of you at your age are wiser than you were 20 years ago? I hope y'all say yeah. I really hope. So that's what he's basing it on. He's saying we're surrounded by this cloud of witnesses. Everything that we have brought up, all these people that we've brought up, everything that we've learned from them. If you remember there in the middle, we talked about there were some failures in that bunch, right? Y'all remember that? And then we thought, well, so are we. You know, there were some people that really messed up. Oh, so did we. There were people in there in that last chapter that questioned God. So do we, right? So he starts this by letting us remember that we're surrounded by the testimony. Verse 2, we're surrounded by that testimony of these people. They weren't perfect. They weren't great, but because of their faith. And so he says, since we are surrounded by this cloud of witness. Now, I'll take it one step forward. I believe he's actually talking about people around him at the time. I believe literally if you, now I'm going to go geek on you a minute, so y'all can play with that. I want to go geek on you for just a minute because historically speaking, this letter to the Hebrews, which was actually to the church in Jerusalem, going back and looking at this letter and the timeline of which it was written, he also had a cloud of witnesses that included Peter, John, Paul. It also included the newly formed deacons that was out there, Stephen, right? So he's looking at, not only are we talking about all these, that, man, we're surrounded by people that are doing it right now, like right now. Because when this was actually written to the church in Jerusalem, some of the, a lot of the things in those 30 years had already been moving forward. Paul was already, geek speak a minute, right? We don't know this 100%. Paul was already on his second missionary journey when this was written. So he had already heard of the things Paul was doing. He had already put all this together. So when he says this, we can actually look at it and say, okay, you know. Now, we weren't there. None of us were there. I know there's some of us in here pretty old, but we weren't there, right? But he's saying we're surrounded by that cloud of witnesses. We know these things, and it's a great cloud of witnesses. But it comes with a warning. Here's where it starts getting church level. Here's where it starts saying, okay, we've got all this, you know, all those people I just mentioned. And he was speaking to a group that knew your Peters, your Pauls, your Johns, you know, your Stephens. He knew those, right? But he says, but look here. Lay aside. That's where the message starts. Lay aside every weight and sin which so easily ensnares us. He made it congregational. He didn't say ensnares you. He said us, right? And let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Here's the thing, being a military vet, we used to, every year, we did it more than once a year, but every year you had to put a rucksack. Anybody ever heard that term before? So it's a backpack, right? You had to put that on there. That rucksack weighed anywhere from 35 to 45 pounds. You had to put that on your back every year, every single year. I mean, I know we did it more because you had to prepare. And you had a time limit to complete a 12-mile course with that on your back. You had to carry that. But we also had what we called full battle rattle. So full battle rattle was you're carrying a weapon. You got this heavy Calvary helmet on your head. You've got what we called LBEs. They changed the name. I don't know what they're called now. But you had that, and it had your water in it. It had your spare ammo in it. It had all. So you're carrying that pack. You're carrying your LBE. You're carrying your weapon. You're carrying this. I don't know what a Calvary weighed, but it seemed like it was like a rock sitting on your head, right? And you had to wear that. So for me, when I read this verse, I go back to my military days because it says, let us lay aside that weight. And at the end, because they were very mean to us. No, I'm kidding. At the end, we would have to do what they call 5 and dime. Someone's shaking their head. They know what. So you had to do 10 push-ups with that on you. There's your 10 cents. And then you had to do 5 pull-ups with that on you. So they called it the 5 and dime, right? And now I'm showing my age because some people in this room don't even know what a 5 and dime is. But that used to be a store when we were growing up. But let me put this in perspective for you. When we dropped that pack, that's what we called it. When we dropped that pack, it felt like heaven. Literally, as we would walk, it felt like you wasn't even walking. I mean, it was like you were floating because you had carried that weight. You had bore that weight. It had been on you all that time. And we would, when we would finally get to drop the pack, right? When we would drop that pack, it was weird to walk. So literally, you were like doing this, right? But see, that's what the author here is saying. Let us set aside that weight. Let's lay it aside. Quit carrying that weight. Lay that aside. As a matter of fact, Jesus himself told us this. He told us to lay aside that weight. He told us to get rid of that burden. Here's the problem with humans. Anyone in here not human? Just want to check. Okay. Here's the problem with humans. We never want to lay the pack down. We don't want to put it down. We want to keep carrying it. We want to keep dragging it. We want to keep trudging through with that weight. And so when I read this verse and I think about my prior military days, I think about, oh, how good that felt to take that stupid pack off my back. And I was carrying stuff that we used to joke in the military, man, this ain't going to help me in battle anyway. I'm going to throw it down anyway. It's not going to help me. But it built us, right? It made us who we were. And now the writer of the Hebrews says, based on everything that we've seen, based on this cloud of witness, I'm challenging all of you to lay aside that weight. Drop it. Drop it. You've carried that long enough. Drop it. Get rid of it. Don't keep carrying it. Now it says here, as you look at it, every weight and the sin which easily ensnares you. Here's another problem with human beings, which we all are. Here's the problem with human beings. We will drop it at the throne of God, and we'll leave it there for a moment, and when we come to Christ, we'll drop that off. But how many times do we sneak back and pick it back up? How many times do we go back and like, okay, let me get that. I'm gonna carry that. See, that's the problem with humankind is we think we have to continue to carry that. One of the things that the devil likes the most is he likes guilt. He loves guilt. How many of you have ever messed up? How many times does the old devil keep bringing that up? The devil loves it. Matter of fact, the devil will help you put that backpack back on. The devil will continue to pick that up, bring it to you, and say, here, let me help you with that. Why? I'll tell you this as a why. As a former runner, I don't run anymore. Used to love to run. Used to love it. It was my escape. I would pray the whole time I was running. Anybody got an activity like that you do and you so here's the thing. I know this to be a true fact. I could do 12 miles faster without a load. I could do 12 miles a lot faster with my tennis shoes, my shorts, and my tank top on. I could. I know that. I know that to be a true fact. I could run much faster. I ran Mount Curry at 30 minutes, right? That was my best time ever. If I'd have had a pack on, you think I'd have done it in 30 minutes? There's no way. So what's the old devil doing? The old devil's like, hey, Steve, did you forget your pack? Here, let me help you with that. See, he's the one that is encouraging us to bring it back. We look back at chapter 11. We see all those individuals from chapter 11. We see and we know that every one of them were failures. They failed. They messed up. They questioned God. They went against God. We see that. We know it. And we know that we can go above that. And the old devil's like, no, you can't. Come here. Come here. Hey, you forgot your pack. Come get this. Come grab it. Let me put that back on your back. Let me help you get that back on. And so in verse 1, I told Paul and them this morning, and Jim actually made fun of me. I told Paul and them, verse 1 has so much to unpack here because the devil is going to bring that old pack back. When the writer said, get rid of that weight, drop that weight, ignore that weight, leave it. And the old devil's like, hey guys, let me help you get that back on your back. And we can't, look at the end of the verse, we can't run that race anymore. We can't run that race the way God intended us to run that race. Now, when they ran Mount Curry back in 1941, they ran that in full battle rattle. Okay? They ran that mountain. When I ran it a couple years ago, when I was my last year of my 40s, when I ran it, I was in nice Adidas running shoes, right? Not combat boots. I was in nice tennis shoes, socks, shorts, tank top. They beat my time, right? They killed me time-wise, but they were carrying everything. And I was running Mount Curry, not carrying my weight. And see, that's what the author says here. Look, drop the weight. Get rid of the weight. Drop it. Get rid of it. Quit lugging it around. Paul even said to the Corinthians, he's like, it's like you're dragging a dead body. You're physically, it's like you're pulling a dead. No, I don't want to know that. I was going to ask if anybody ever drug a dead body. I don't want to know that. But in Paul's reference to the Corinthians, he was like, it's like dragging a dead body around with you. Drop the weight. Get rid of the weight. Move away from the weight and every sin that's going to continue to ensnare you. Because it's going to keep trapping you. It's going to keep ensnaring you. Get rid of it. Drop it. Is anybody in here good at that? How many of you keep looking back? How many of you keep grabbing? As a matter of fact, another thing Jesus said, he who grabs the plow and grabs a hold of the plow, the one that looks back, the one that keeps going back, he's unworthy. Jesus said that. Steve didn't say that. But how often do we look back? How often do we go back and grab that backpack? How often do we have to repent? And I love the fact, so in this one verse, the language here, if you want to get, again, I'm going to go geek on you, all right? In this one verse, he uses political terms, military terms, and Olympic terms, right? All in one verse. Because he's trying to explain to us, you can't run that race if you're still carrying that weight. Get rid of it. Now, another real quick thing is, before we move on, when you start looking at that, a lot of runners, myself included, I have a weighted vest. You ever heard of a weighted vest? I train with the weighted vest. But I ain't gonna run the race with the vest. What the vest is doing is it's building me up, giving me endurance. It's getting me going, right? But when I go run the race, I'm not wearing it. No, I would be a fool to run it. And a lot of athletes will do that. They will run with weight. And then when it comes time to run the race, they drop it. They shed it. It's a really good analogy that verse 1 is. Drop the weight. Lay it aside. Look what he says. He says, lay it aside. Don't try to run this race. Christian brothers and sisters, we are so bad at allowing the devil to bring up that weight. Bring up our past. Help us pack that back on. Help us. As a matter of fact, the old devil, he wants to put more in it. He wants to add things to it. And so what may have started as a 35, 45-pound rucksack, he keeps putting more in it. He wants to put more in it. He wants to remind you of the mistake you made yesterday that wasn't even in the pack originally. And he's like, oh, did you forget about this? Here's you another couple of pounds. And so he wants to weigh you down. Why? Because he don't want you to run with endurance. And if you have ever ran, or if you have ever been a part of something where you had a pack on, your endurance will end quicker than if you're out there with 10 shoes and shorts on. If you're out there free of the weight. And so what the writer is trying to say is we see these guys. We see chapter 11. We see they were not perfect. They had problems in and of themselves. They questioned God. They failed. They did all of these things. Put that aside. Leave it. And go run your race. Don't carry all that. Don't run with all that. Leave those things down. And I know for most of us, when you get saved, you run up and you go to the throne of God and you give your life to God and you repent and you lay that down. But so often we go back and pick it up, and then we start packing it again, start putting more in it, and keep packing it. And one of the biggest things is if you've ever watched military guys, by the end of a military maneuver, they have nothing left. It's gone, right? But at the beginning of the maneuver, we used to say they packed everything in there and the kitchen sink. You know, everything they could think of, they packed it in. And the devil's like, oh, wait a minute, Steve. Hold on. You forgot this. Oh, wait. Hey, Steve, come back. Here, you forgot this. You forgot this. The devil wants to weigh you down because look at this. It is a race of endurance. Life is a race of endurance. Guess what? Life's not a sprint. If you young people, if you think life's a sprint, you're going to be. Ask some of the older people, not me, because I'm not the older people, but ask some of the older people. It's an endurance race, ain't it? It's an endurance race. It's not a sprint. Praise God, when I was a teenager, it was a sprint, right? Then I found out real quick, you're going to hit that wall. Life is an endurance race. And you're not going to do it if you're carrying a bunch of weight. If you're carrying the weight of your sin and the weight of your past, and if you're trying to carry that with you, you will not endure. So this is just good life lesson. Verse 1 is just good life lesson. Therefore, we also, since we're surrounded by all of these people, all these witnesses, Peter was a failure, John was a failure, Paul was a failure. All of those that I listed back in chapter 11 were failures. But I'm trying to tell you, you're looking at their faith. And I need you to lay aside all of that weight. Put it down. Lay it aside. Because that weight and that sin will continue to ensnare you. And you won't be able to run that race of endurance. You won't make it. Lay it down, or you'll give out. You ever heard of the term burnout? People start serving the Lord. People start following Jesus, and they get burnt out. Why do they get burnt out? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is they're still trying to carry stuff. One of the problems, and I'll say this, one of the problems in church leadership is we unfortunately try to carry our own burdens and everyone else that people tell us about, and we're bad about it because we're human, and it's like you tell us about your burden, and please continue and keep doing it, but then we try to carry it. We look at God and we're like, hey, I got this, God. I'm gonna carry this, and we keep doing it. And humankind is that way. You do it with your family. You do it with your all of your kinfolk. You try to carry. So not only are you carrying your own weight, now you're picking up other people's weight. And you're like, oh, I got this for you, sister. I got this for you, brother. Let me throw that on there too. And that's not. We're supposed to take it to the throne of God, and we're supposed to lay it aside because it's a marathon. It's an endurance race, and we can't keep carrying all of that stuff. Verse 2, it says, how do we do that? So he follows it up with the answer. I love the fact that he follows it up with the answer. He don't tell us, okay, well, go lay that down. Drop all that, forget all that. Good luck. No, he follows it up with the answer. Look at the very opening line of verse 2. He says, looking unto Jesus. How are we going to drop that weight? How are we going to leave that weight? Well, Jesus himself said to give our burdens to him. That's what is that not what Jesus said? He said, give it to him. So verse 2 says, look into Jesus. How do we drop that weight? How do we remove that weight from our backs? How do we drop it? Well, it's very clear here. We look to Jesus. Because Jesus has already came up. He came up online. And when we got to the finish line, what we thought, the finish line, he came up and he said, here, let me get that. Let me carry it. And so here it says, look into Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. He wrote it. He wrote the book on it. Literally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, He wrote the book on it. And it said, how do we shed that weight? How do we get that off of our back? The answer is look to Jesus. Here's something I want to tell you real quick. No matter, and I know this, and I'm telling you from experience, and many of you in here are going to shake your head because you've been there too. When you have weight that you're carrying, when you're in that, I'm talking spiritual now, when you're there, when you're physically there, one of the hardest things to do is to lay it off. Man, tough. I don't know why we think that way. I don't know why our minds work that way, but it's so hard to lay that off. And then I started thinking about it this past week. I actually carried, because I'm still a paper guy, so I carry, I'm still paper. I carried this with me all week, and I was thinking about it, and I was looking at it, and I was like, I know why. I finally know why. I don't know why for you, but I know why for me. It hit me as to why. Because I am me. I'm a sinful-natured human. And I think, how many of you have ever been failed? Has anybody ever failed you in your life? Has anybody ever done you wrong in your life? Has anyone ever looked at you and told you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do whatever, and they didn't come through? Has that ever happened? That's never happened, right? Never, right? I mean, people are perfect. They always do what they say they're going to do, and they're going to come through, right? How many of you have never been burnt? Right? So in our sinful human nature, it's so hard for us to look at the words of Jesus. Notice the word here, faith. It's so hard. The devil has done such a great job with us that now when we look to Jesus and we think, okay, Lord, I'll give you this, but I'm going to give you a quarter of it. Maybe I'll give you half. Maybe I'll give you 3/4. Some of us are really bad, and we're only going to give you a 16th, right? Because we have lost faith, because we deal with humans. We deal with sinful people just like us. And so we lose faith. And the devil has done really, really good at that by getting us to put Jesus in the same realm as us. But see, we got to go all the way back to verse 11, or chapter 11, verse 1. See, we have a different faith. It's a substance. It's not a feeling. We can't look at Jesus the same way that we look at each other. Unfortunately, we cannot look at each other the same way we look at Jesus. Jesus meant what he said and said what he did. Look at the rest of the verse. It says, looking to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. He's the one that wrote our faith. He's the one that dictated our faith. He's the one that created our faith. Jesus, who for joy, this part should blow your mind. If it don't, go home and pray, because you're messed up. For joy that was set before him, he endured the cross. Let me ask you this, and no, we're not going to make it to verse 6, I'm sorry. But let me ask you this. Who in your life, and I mean this, I'm being 100% sincere right now. Who in your life has ever endured the cross for you? Who? Jesus. Not only that, let's go even a step further. Who in your life would endure the cross for you? I'll go even one step further. Who would do it with joy? Ooh, oh my goodness. So when we look at verse 1, and we see that we're supposed to take that load off, and we're supposed to remove that load, and we're supposed to give it up. Who do we give it to? We give it to Jesus, who with joy blows my mind. I was military. I'll be honest with you. Being in a combat situation, I did it for my family, my friends, my state, my battle buddies, right? I did it for them, right? Was I there in joy? I'm going to have to say no. I was there out of responsibility. I was there I said yes. I was, wasn't out of joy. I would have rather been back home, right? With my wife, with my kids, with, whatever. I would have rather, but I'm saying Jesus endured the cross out of joy. Why? So that he could remove that weight and that sin from our lives. He's not like Steve. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, someone breaks in our house in the middle of the night, I'm going to protect my family to my death. I will. Everybody else, right? You're going to do that. I ain't going to be joyful about it. I'm not going to be dancing through the house like, woohoo. No. But it says with joy, he endured that cross so that he could remove that weight, so that he could remove that sin, that he could take that away from us so that he carried it. Why? Because he wanted us to run the race set before. He wanted us to endure till the end. That's why he removed that weight, and he did it with joy. Because here's the thing that you need to understand. Jesus knew us before we were ever even born. That is the deity of Jesus Christ. He knew us, and he looked down on each and every one of us with love. And I say this all the time, when Jesus was standing on the mount looking down on Jerusalem, it said that Jesus wept. I don't believe Jesus was just looking at Jerusalem crying. I believe he was looking at each and every one of us as well. I believe he was looking throughout the annals of history. I believe he was looking at the whole world, and it broke his heart. And when he looked down, I don't believe it was just Jerusalem that day, that minute, that hour. I believe he was looking at all of us. Why? Because he knew with joy he would endure that cross for us, to remove that weight from us. And I believe 100,000% that every time that we come back and pick that up, I think it breaks his heart. I think it breaks his heart. I think he looks at it and says, Steve, I've already took that from you. I'm already carrying that for you. Why'd you come back and get it again? Why'd you come pick it up again? Why? Steve, do you keep coming back and grabbing the same garbage when I've already done it? And going back to my military days and our men's ministry rally point, we used to go to the rally point and we used to drop all of our gear and we would lay our gear to the side and we would eat good. Well, for field food, we would eat better that day, but we would drop everything. But we knew in our heart we had to go back and pick it up. See, with Jesus, we didn't have to go back. We dropped it. He picked it up. And we are able to go forward and run the race of endurance of which is laid before us, and we don't have to carry it anymore. And I think I have biblical that I could show you. I think we break Jesus's heart every time we come back and pick it up. I think it breaks his heart because he's like, Steve, I've already took that load. with joy, I've taken that load. Weight, that sin. With joy, Steve, I have carried it for you. I've got that. Quit coming back to get it. I don't know. I'm sorry, but it's been a very personal message to me. It hit me in so many different ways. And yeah, I think we break his heart. But it says with joy, he endured that cross. As the worship team comes out and we get into a new song, with joy, he endured that cross, despising the shame that is set down at the right hand of God now. I believe coming from my background and a lot of you don't even have to be military to understand what it is to carry a burden, to carry a load, to carry stuff with you. Jesus, with joy, came and took that burden from us. And I think what the author here is trying to do is to tell us and to explain to us, quit going back and picking it up. Leave it there. Jesus said, I've got it. I've got it. Quit going back. And I have to look at my own life, at where I'm at my age. And a lot of you, I hope this week you sit there and do the same thing. Like I said, I carried this little notebook with me all week because these two verses just kept hitting me right in the chest. I mean, just kept. Yeah, I didn't think I'd make it to verse 6, but I was trying. But if you know Jesus, and you know he's the author and finisher of your faith, and you know he has already called you and requested that you lay down the weight that you carried for years. He says, lay it down. Let him carry it. I know I'll give it one more thing and I'll stop. Like I said, it ended up being very personal to me. I remember we did a ruck march to raise money. This was after my military career. We did a ruck march to raise money for veterans organizations. And myself and my best friend, which is unfortunately a jarhead. If you don't know what that means, you know what it means. There was a specific guy out there called a corpsman. If you know anything about the military, he's a medic for the Marines and the Navy. Those are some hard charging, awesome dudes, right? I mean, they are awesome dudes. Okay. He had decided to carry 10 pounds for every man he lost in Afghanistan. Now, that's hard to think about because he's a corpsman, and their whole job is to save life. That's what they're there for. That's why I say they're. Anyway, he was carrying 10 pounds per man that he lost in Afghanistan. When we got to, trying to say this in a church way, when we got to a certain hill that they called Hades, that wasn't the term we particularly used. But when we got to that hill was 1.2 miles straight up. Boy, that stupid hill was, it's ugly, right? And he started struggling because of that weight that he was carrying. And I'm so thankful today, myself and my best friend, the jarhead, and two other guys, we walk up behind him. And Paul and Alice were there. They were part of it. We helped him. We pulled up on the weight. We carried the weight. We made it up that hill together. See, that's the importance of the church, too. So, yeah, Jesus says, drop your weight. But as a church, we need to be looking at each other, too, because some of us are going to hit those hills, Hades hills, and we're going to still be trying to drag weight. And that's where us as a body, as a fellowship, that's where we step in. And we grab a hold of that weight. And I know some people know the motion I'm doing here. And you grab hold and you go. So as a church, we also need to support each other in that. If you see your brother or sister still trying to tag on and carry all that by themselves, I encourage you to step in as well, because that weight needs to be dropped. And if that requires one of us, a brother or sister, coming in and saying, hey, let me get that. I'm gonna take that back over to the throne and drop it off. You don't need to be carrying that. Then that's what we need to do as a church family. Let's pray. Lord, I just want to thank you and praise you. Lord, as you already know, you've been dealing with me all week. It's such a personal thing for me. And how, Lord, I'm as guilty, probably more guilty than anyone in here, of just going back and picking up the weight, just going back and grabbing it, just going back and putting it back on my back. Lord, I know some of my brothers in here, we've had conversations about how we keep doing that, how we want to carry guilt and sin on our backs. And Lord, as you've broke my heart today and this week, I pray you do the same with everyone else, where we lay aside the weight and the sin of our previous life, looking unto you, Lord Jesus, as the author and finisher of our faith, not a feeling, but a substance, which in our hope lies in you. And Lord, I pray if only one person got one thing out of this morning, that it's a blessing. But Lord, I pray that each and every one leaves out here this morning blessed through the fact that we don't have to carry it anymore, that we can leave it, we can drop it. And for all of us that just won't quit looking back, won't keep coming back and picking it up, Lord, I pray you convict each and every one of us this morning. We love you in Jesus' name. Man, if you'll stand with us for worship.